Welcome back to Investing Talk Podcast. Today, we're going to be taking a look at MicroStrategy, ticker symbol MSTR. Now, they're a software company,
Right.
but their stock is behaving more like a cryptocurrency.
Yeah, that's because they've adopted this really unusual strategy of acquiring a massive amount of Bitcoin.
Oh, wow.
As of February 23rd, they hold 499,096 Bitcoin,
Wow.
valued at $47.4 billion.
So they're putting their money where their mouth is. But
Yeah.
does that make MicroStrategy a smart investment or a risky gamble?
It's a fascinating question. You see, most companies hold assets like cash or bonds.
Right.
MicroStrategy is treating Bitcoin as its primary reserve asset.
Interesting.
It's almost like they've turned themselves into a publicly traded Bitcoin ETF.
Huh. But wouldn't that make them incredibly vulnerable to Bitcoin's volatility?
Absolutely, and we've seen that play out recently.
Yeah.
Over the past month, MicroStrategy's stock is down 20.5%.
Right.
However, it's up 94.5% year over year as of March 5th.
Oh, wow. That's quite a roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
For our listeners who might be unfamiliar with the term ETF, could you explain what that is and how MicroStrategy's approach compares?
An ETF, or exchange-traded fund, is a basket of securities
Okay.
that you can buy or sell on a stock exchange, much like a stock.
Got it.
In this case, a Bitcoin ETF would track the price of Bitcoin.
Okay.
What MicroStrategy has done is essentially create their own version of this
Right.
by holding so much Bitcoin on their balance sheet.
So instead of buying shares of a Bitcoin ETF, you could buy shares of MicroStrategy and get similar exposure to Bitcoin.
In theory, yes,
Okay.
but there's a key difference.
Okay.
A traditional Bitcoin ETF is designed to track the price of Bitcoin as closely as possible.
Uh-huh.
With MicroStrategy, you have additional factors to consider, like their software, business, and management decisions.
Right. And how about risk?
Well,
Would you say investing in MicroStrategy is riskier than investing in a Bitcoin ETF?
potentially, yes.
Okay.
While a Bitcoin ETF is subject to the inherent volatility of Bitcoin,
Right.
MicroStrategy carries the added risks associated with any individual company.
Okay.
Their management could make poor decisions,
Right.
they could face competition in their software business, and so on.
So an investor really needs to weigh the potential upside of this unique strategy
Yeah.
with the potential downsides.
Yeah.
Let's talk about one of those potential downsides, their recent earnings report.
Okay.
MicroStrategy announced a significant net loss of $671 million in the fourth quarter of 2024.
Right. And that loss is directly tied to the correction in Bitcoin's price in late February. It highlights the inherent risk of MicroStrategy's strategy.
Are investors overreacting to this loss, or is this a sign of trouble ahead?
Yeah.
What should our listeners be thinking about when they see this kind of news?
It's important to remember that MicroStrategy's performance is heavily tied to Bitcoin's price movements. If you believe Bitcoin's price will increase in the long term, then a short-term loss might not be a major concern.
Okay.
But if you're skeptical about Bitcoin's future, then this loss could be a red flag.
So it boils down to your outlook on Bitcoin.
Exactly.
Do you see it as a revolutionary asset with huge growth potential,
Yeah.
or as a speculative bubble that's about to burst?
And that leads us to the bigger picture.
Okay.
How do global events and trends
Right.
impact a company like MicroStrategy?
Yeah.
Let's talk about President Trump's tariffs.
Sorry.
On March 4th,
Okay.
tariffs on goods from Canada, Mexico, and China went into effect, and that's created some market jitters.
So even though MicroStrategy's business is focused on software and Bitcoin, they're not immune to these larger economic forces.
Not at all.
Right.
These tariffs could potentially slow down global economic growth,
Okay.
which could indirectly impact demand for both software and Bitcoin.
It's a reminder that even the most innovative companies can be affected by global events.
Absolutely, and it's a key consideration for any investor, regardless of their investment strategy.
But despite these headwinds,
Yeah.
MicroStrategy has actually outperformed the S&P 500 year to date.
Uh-huh.
Does this signal underlying strength, or is it simply a reflection of Bitcoin's resilience?
It's likely a combination of both. Bitcoin has shown some remarkable strength, and MicroStrategy's bold bet on Bitcoin is paying off in the short term.
Yeah. For investors who are considering MicroStrategy, what signals should they be watching for?
Well, technical analysis can provide some insights. As of March 5th, MicroStrategy stock is trading at $277.49.
Okay.
It's formed what's called a pennant formation.
Okay.
This pattern suggests a breakout is coming.
Could you explain that in a way that our listeners who aren't technical analysts can understand?
Sure. Imagine a flag waving in the wind.
Okay.
The pole is the initial strong move in the stock, either up or down. The flag is the period of consolidation where the stock trades in a narrowing range.
Yep.
Eventually, the flag breaks out in the direction of the pole.
So in MicroStrategy's case, the stock has been consolidating after a significant upward move.
Right.
This pennant formation suggests that a breakout is imminent, but we don't know if it will be to the upside or the downside.
Precisely.
Okay.
A break above the recent high would signal continued bullish momentum,
Right.
while a break below the recent low would be a bearish signal.
So this formation adds another layer of complexity to the MicroStrategy story.
It does.
It's a high-risk, high-reward scenario.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
There are valid arguments to be made on both sides.
Right.
Some investors believe this dip is a buying opportunity.
Okay.
They see MicroStrategy as a leverage play on Bitcoin, and they're betting that Bitcoin will continue to rise in value.
Essentially, they're saying if you believe in Bitcoin's long-term potential, then MicroStrategy offers a way to amplify your returns.
That's the bullish argument.
Okay.
But there's also the bearish side. Some investors are concerned about the risks associated with MicroStrategy's strategy.
What are some of those risks?
Well, they point to the volatility of Bitcoin,
Right.
the company's significant debt load, and the overall uncertainty in the market.
Let's unpack those one by one.
Okay.
First, the volatility of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
We've already seen how Bitcoin's price swings can dramatically impact MicroStrategy's stock price.
Absolutely.
That kind of volatility can be nerve-wracking for investors.
It can be. Yeah. And it's important to remember that Bitcoin is still a relatively new asset class.
Right.
We don't have decades of historical data to analyze, so it's difficult to predict how it will behave in the long term.
So investing in Bitcoin, either directly or through a company like MicroStrategy, requires a certain level of risk tolerance.
It certainly does. Now let's talk about MicroStrategy's debt load.
Okay.
To acquire all of that Bitcoin, they've taken on a lot of debt.
Right.
If Bitcoin's price were to decline significantly, that debt could become a major burden.
It could even potentially jeopardize the company's financial stability.
That's right. And finally, there's the overall uncertainty in the market. We've got geopolitical tensions, trade wars,
Right.
and rising interest rates.
Okay.
All of these factors can contribute to market volatility and make it difficult to predict which way the market will move.
So even if you believe in Bitcoin's long-term potential, you need to be aware of these broader market risks.
Absolutely. And that's why it's so important to do your own research.
Right.
And carefully consider your own risk tolerance before investing in any asset,
Yeah.
especially something as volatile as MicroStrategy.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Investing isn't one size fits all.
Right.
What's right for one investor might be completely wrong for another.
I completely agree. It all comes down to your individual financial goals, risk tolerance, and time horizon.
For our listeners who are intrigued by a MicroStrategy's approach, but maybe aren't comfortable with that level of risk,
Yeah.
are there other ways to invest in Bitcoin?
There are.
Okay.
You could invest in a Bitcoin ETF, which, as we discussed, is a more diversified and potentially less risky way to gain exposure to Bitcoin.
What are some of the advantages of a Bitcoin ETF?
Well, ETFs are generally considered to be more liquid than individual stocks.
Okay.
That means it's easier to buy and sell them.
Uh-huh.
They're also typically more diversified,
Okay.
which can help to reduce risk.
So if you're looking for a more hands-off approach to Bitcoin investing, a Bitcoin ETF might be a good option.
It could be, but it's important to remember that even Bitcoin ETFs are subject to Bitcoin's volatility.
Right.
There's no way to completely eliminate the risk.
This has been a fascinating conversation about a truly unique company.
Yeah,
MicroStrategy has taken a bold approach, and it will be interesting to see how it plays out.
it certainly will.
Yeah.
They've challenged conventional investing wisdom, and their story highlights the evolving landscape of finance.
It's a question that I think every investor needs to grapple with as they navigate this new world of digital assets. What do you think out there listening? Does MicroStrategy inspire you, or do you see red flags?
Yeah, there's no easy answer, and that's what makes this so compelling. MicroStrategy is a case study in how a company can disrupt not just its industry, but the very idea of what an asset is.
And for those of us who love following the markets, it's a front row seat to a financial experiment unfolding in real time.
Indeed. It raises questions about traditional portfolio management, risk assessment, and how we value companies in a digital age. Do we stick to the old playbooks or rewrite the rules entirely?
Those are questions we'll be exploring further on Investing Talk podcast, so make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out.
And tell a friend if you've enjoyed our analysis today. We always appreciate your feedback, so leave us a comment and let us know your thoughts on MicroStrategy.
Thanks for joining us today. We'll catch you on the next episode of Investing Talk podcast as we continue to decode the world of finance.